Welcome to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast, episode 662, hosted by author, educator, speaker, and mom, the Cool Cat teacher, Vicki Davis. In this episode, Vicki continues her conversation with Dr. Amy Cranston about the critical social and emotional needs of students, parents, and teachers in today's challenging times. Dr. Cranston is a California-based educator, a leading social and emotional expert, and author of the book Creating Social and Emotional Learning Environments. Well, let's check in with Vicki and Amy now. Enjoy!
In today's socially challenging times, teaching kids how to build social, emotional, and learning skills can be tough. If you're an educator looking for ways to integrate SEL into your lessons or a parent supporting learning at home, the All-State Foundation and we are committed to providing you with the resources you need to get started at we.org/SEL. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn more about this sponsor. Today we're talking with Dr. Amy Cranston, author of Creating Social and Emotional Learning Environments. So, Amy, the students, they're at home and we're trying to teach SEL and academics. Do we have opportunities of things that we can do at home to really help children in these areas?
Absolutely, Vicki. Thanks for talking with me about this. So, if we were under normal circumstances, at normal school, I would say the same thing as far as SEL skill development can always and should always be integrated right along with academic skill development. So the same thing holds true in our current situation, although we have to be a little bit more creative about it. But we have a lot of opportunities to do that. So if you think in terms of things like projects that people might be doing at home, families might be doing at home, just think about how easy it would be to incorporate both SEL and academic skill development in something like that, or cooking even. If you're looking at measuring and doing some math with regard to that, as well as the SEL skills that come into play when you're communicating with someone else, learning from someone else, teamwork, collaboration, all those kinds of things that come into play with really everything we do, even under normal circumstances.
Oh, you've already given us 3 incredible ideas. I know that we have our PE coach, our librarian, media specialist, and music have all moved online along with our teachers. And our PE coach is kind of, I guess, sort of our SEL cheerleader. And he has invented this thing called backyard bingo, where he gives them a bingo card and it has things, to look for in your backyard. Look for a ladybug, look for this, look for that, laugh with someone else in your house, and it has some SEL things as well as academic things. So we can even play games too, can't we?
Absolutely. Those are the types of things that kids will remember too. Right? Experiences. So when you have those kinds of hands-on activities, the learning that goes on under those circumstances tend to stick a little better, right, than anything that they're just reading about or doing a worksheet on or that sort of thing. So it's really a very effective way to process and retain a lot of that information.
So I guess as you're interacting with others, you're pulling in those SEL skills, but do you have any specific tips for parents and for teachers to give that information to parents?
Yeah, 2 things that I would say. First of all, parents shouldn't have to feel like they have to also be teachers. I mean, they have to in this situation, but at the same time, the expectation should not be the same. That being said, there's plenty they have to offer and teach their kids. And again, through these types of activities and family activities, I think we just need to let parents know that those are very valid learning mechanisms. And they're not falling short in any way by doing those sorts of activities with their kids rather than sort of traditional academic lessons.
Well, I know when my kids were little, I was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, and it was the hardest job I ever had. But when they were little, I kind of actually made my own little mini lesson plans. And sometimes it was just vocabulary because we know that a lot of words is what creates vocabulary. But we used to do this thing called sink and float, which they loved. And we got regular household items that could get wet. I had a bucket of water, and then we had the word sink and we had the word float that I had laminated, and we would just experiment to see what could sink and float and, talk about that. We also talked about what couldn't go in water. You're not going to take Dad's remote control for the TV and put it in the water to see if it sinks or floats, because that wouldn't be kind to do. So, I think parents are teachers. We can't help it because we know that parents impact the final academic outlook, I guess, of children even more than their classroom teachers, because, you have your parents for much of your lifetime often, and teacher, you may have one, each year.
Absolutely. And that's my point, is that I think parents sell themselves short sometimes in how much they do have to offer their kids in that aspect.
What about the parents who feel like they're absolutely losing their mind? Because you see the viral videos of people who are like, the kids saying, hey, when am I done with my math? And the dad says, when I'm done with this TV show. Like, there's just this almost anger and angst. We're trying to teach. We've already listed a good, 6 things that I didn't sign up for this. How do we help parents through that trouble and struggle?
I think I just want to say, I want to release them of their pressure and anxiety by saying, whatever you do is enough right now, and it's fine, and don't put so much pressure on yourself. The same advice I would give teachers is, let's take care of everyone's, mental and emotional health first and foremost. Everything else is secondary.
It is. And let's stay healthy and get them outside, right? Would you say that physical education is kind of part of all this too?
Absolutely. And anything they can do outside around their neighborhood, in their backyard. There's so many different opportunities there to pull in nature, all the possibilities that are outdoors as well as indoors. It's good for our mental health, but there's also a lot of opportunity to bring that into the learning.
Well, I know you could say a lot of different things here. We've recorded another show with you that will also be airing, where I asked you, what's the biggest mistake that teachers can make in this time? And I hope our listeners will listen to that show as well. But what do you think, besides the obvious mistakes that parents could make, but what do you think the biggest mistake that parents could make right now is as it relates to the social and emotional wellness of their children?
I think it's just putting too much pressure on themselves and on their kids with regard to not slipping too much academically. I think everyone is so worried right now about kids falling so far behind academically that we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves with regard to that. And again, I just think it's secondary under the circumstances. We're all just trying to survive right now the best we can, and that's enough.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of that pressure comes with some schools and school districts are maybe going at a slower pace, but they're at least learning. And then some districts have said, you know what, we can't do any of it. We just either weren't ready or things didn't go as planned. So the kids have nothing. And there's such a loss of something. I mean, I have a colleague who's not going to return next year because she's moving out of town. And when we walked out of school on May 10th, if I had realized that would be the last time I might ever see her in my life, I would have done things a little differently. Like our seniors, some of them are like, wow, did something just happen and I didn't know it? I mean, isn't that part of what we're dealing with as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really important for people to remain connected right now. And that goes for adults and kids alike. It's important that we maintain those connections and those relationships any way we can with our colleagues, our friends, our family, our kids, our students. That is very much needed right now, probably more than we realize.
Okay, so parents, teachers, we can do academics and SEL, perhaps not in the super intense way that some people are used to, the quote, drill and kill that some call it, but perhaps more just let's cook dinner with Mom, or let's play a game with Dad, or let's have family time and spend time together. These are all things that are part of learning, and I hope that you'll participate in that and listen to this wise advice. We've had a lot of psychologists and counselors on the show since a lot of us have moved into a quarantine, and I hope that we're listening because they're all saying very similar things to us. They're saying that we need to adjust our expectations, that we need to focus on the most important thing, and we will get through this together. Thanks.
Thank you, Vicki.
In today's challenging times, we know how critical it is to make sure kids are equipped with social and emotional learning skills to cope with the world around them. That's why I'm excited to highlight today's sponsor, the We Schools program made possible by the Allstate Foundation. It brings social and emotional learning together with service learning, helping children build key skills such as resilience, empathy, perseverance, and problem solving. Whether you're an educator looking for ways to integrate SEL into your lesson planning or a parent looking to support your kids' remote learning at home, go to we.org/SEL for helpful educational resources and tips. Our friends at the Allstate Foundation and we are committed to providing you with the resources you need to get started. Thanks, we and the Allstate Foundation, for sponsoring this podcast episode.